Welcome back, everyone. We all know who Ben Shapiro is, but we don't always know what he's talking about. He talks a million miles per hour that we don't actually know what he's saying most of the time. Ben Shapiro recently attended a Q&A session at UCLA where he was asked some questions by a Jewish kid. I don't know the intent of the Jewish kid, but he asked some pretty straightforward questions. Ben Shapiro apparently destroys this kid. Let's break it down step by step and see if Ben Shapiro actually says anything credible at all. Let's take a look.
As an American Jew, how can you continue to condone the actions of the Israeli government, condoned by the U.S. government, in the Gaza Strip, where over 40,000 people have died, including Palestinians and Israelis, and large numbers of children and civilians? How can you continue to condone those actions?
Okay, hold on. I want to correct you. I don't just condone the actions of the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli government. I celebrate and laud them.
Okay, so point number one, Ben says he not only condones but celebrates. What does that mean? Let me tell you what that means. It means he celebrates the killing of almost 50,000 Palestinians. This does not include 156 journalists, 120 academics, and over 200 humanitarian workers. In November 2024, the UN published its analysis and states over a 6 months period, 70% of all civilian deaths were women and children. That's just women and children, and does not include innocent men and elderly. So those buffoons who are applauding have no idea what they've just celebrated.
I'm not morally apathetic about what's happening. On October 7th, Hamas launched the most deadly war on Jews since the Holocaust. They killed 1,200 innocent people. They took 250 hostages. 100 of them are still being held hostage. I know members of families of hostages who are still being held, American citizens. Hamas could end this war today by surrendering. They've chosen not to surrender. Instead, they spent billions of dollars building terror tunnels below civilian areas. It is not incumbent on the Israeli government to surrender just because terrorists are evil enough to hide behind civilians. The Israeli government has gone through such extraordinary efforts not to kill civilians that it has managed the best civilian to terrorist kill ratio in the history of urban warfare, and it is not close.
You guys know what the Hannibal Directive is? The Hannibal Directive is a procedure used by the IDF against their own people. The Hannibal Directive was recorded and evidenced at 3 locations on October the 7th, meaning the IDF was instructed to shoot on demand. 250 hostages. The Palestinians have been hostages to Israel for over 70 years. Never mind that, Israel currently holds several thousand Palestinian hostages. He also mentioned civilian to terrorist ratio is lower than any war. Let's see. Let's compare some of these figures. Ukraine and Russia, 13,000 civilian deaths. 70,000 civilian deaths in the UK alone for World War II. Vietnam, 30 to 60,000 civilian deaths from US bombing. First Chechen War, 40,000 civilian deaths. Second Chechen War, 13,000 deaths. Does Ben really know what he's talking about?
I personally know soldiers who have gone door to door in the Gaza Strip who have risked their own lives to prevent civilian death. Israel has complete and utter air superiority over the Gaza Strip. Turns out that Hamas doesn't have an air force. They just had a series of tunnels where they hid all their leadership while their people suffered after their people voted for them, and then they effectively established a dictatorship over the course of the last 20 years. Israel, with their complete air superiority, certainly would have had the ability to commit full-scale human atrocities had they wanted to. They have complete air superiority. They could have used F-35s and simply turned the place into a parking lot. They did not, in fact, do that. They moved vast scales of population. In fact, believe it or not, there have been more births in the Gaza Strip since the beginning of this war than there have been deaths in the Gaza Strip from the war itself. That is a very poor way to conduct a genocide.
Check out this image of Palestine from 1948 till now. Does that suffice? Let's fact check his car park analogy. Check out this image for the level of bombing on Palestine. Does that look like an entire region bombed, or do I need to go to Specsavers? He's utterly absurd for what he said about the population increase. According to the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, Gaza population has declined by 160,000 people. You can't make this stuff up.
Do you not want ceasefire now?
I do not want a ceasefire until Hamas is destroyed and all the hostages are back. And you know how that could happen? It could have happened October 6th. There was a ceasefire on October 6th. And then there wasn't a ceasefire starting on October 7th. And there could have been a ceasefire again on October 8th, even after all of the death. If Hamas had surrendered its top leadership to international justice, if it had released all of its hostages, and if it had turned over its rulership of the Gaza Strip to some sort of decent body that wouldn't have reinstalled terrorism at the top of the food chain.
So clearly he doesn't want a ceasefire until the hostages are returned and Hamas is destroyed. Let's dissect that for a moment. Who is Hamas? Some say terror and some say freedom fighters. Professor John Mearsheimer said, if me and you were born in Palestine and we saw the destruction and illegal occupation of our homes and our mothers, fathers and siblings were killed, we would probably join the resistance. So what Ben is indirectly saying is there should be no ceasefire until all Palestinians are gone.
There's only one way to defeat terrorism, and that is to win. You do not win wars with ceasefires. You do not win wars by losing.
In your speech, you mentioned that there are scavengers who like to tear down and there are lions who like to build up. Are there not some institutions we ought to tear down in society, potentially like the Israeli Defense Force?
I think it would be an act of the gravest evil to even make that contention, simply because the Israeli Defense Force stands between 7.5 million Jews in Israel and complete slaughter. And by the way, over 2 million Arabs and complete slaughter who are citizens of the state of Israel. The only security and peace in the region right now is being guaranteed by the Israeli military. That is the only force standing between that region and continued chaos. The destruction of the IDF is the destruction of Israel. That means a genocide, a true genocide. The thing that everybody likes to ignore in the Middle East while they're claiming genocide and while they are claiming apartheid is that there's only one area in that specific area that is free of one ethnicity and religion, and it is quote-unquote Palestine.
Almost describes the IDF as some sort of heroes. Let's check if that's true. The IDF killed an 18-year-old defenseless man in the West Bank. The IDF killed 4 doctors in a Kamal Adwan hospital. Mahmoud al-Sadi, a 17-year-old boy, as he walked to school. Muhammad al-Salim, a 17-year-old boy, was shot in the back by the IDF as he ran away. The UN have said the IDF have killed 614 individual innocent civilians. These are not those who have died from airstrikes or bombings, but 614 individual targeted attacks on civilians. The truth is, I can be here all day giving examples, some of which I have documented on previous videos. Let's not forget that not long before 1948, when the Ottomans were in power, why and how did Jews, Christians and Muslims live in peace? The difference then and now is night and day. What's changed? Think about that for a moment. Ben is literally making half this stuff up, and it's easy to read between the lines. The dopes who are standing and applauding are just blindly following and probably have zero understanding or empathy towards what's actually going on. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace out.